This is the Sharing Without Shame podcast, where we go beyond addiction to uncover the deeper roots of trauma and shame. Hurt people. They hide behind masks. And here, we're done hiding. We're sharing our stories without shame.
Hello, and welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast, recognized as number 30 in the top 100 podcasts, where we don't just talk about the problem, we offer you a pathway to peace. I'm your host, Donna Marston. I know the fear, the sleepless nights, and that haunting question, am I helping or am I hurting? This show is for anyone who is hurting in silence and ready to move from crisis to clarity. Before we begin, grab your free guide, My 5 Boundaries and Breakthroughs. It's in the show notes. It's the first step in my Sharing Without Shame reset program, designed to give you clarity when everything feels overwhelming. And if this show speaks to you, please subscribe, share, and leave a review so it can reach more hearts than that needs it. Today, I'd like to welcome Robert Rickelman, author of Jumping to the End, and a writer whose work reflects a lifelong search for stability within a broken system. Robert's writing is rooted in lived experience and shaped by years of navigating the complex personal and institutional challenges. He began by submitting pieces to literary magazines, using that process to refine his voice and understand how his work resonated with readers. What started as individual writing projects eventually grew into a full-length memoir. In Jumping to the End, Robert explores endurance, reflection, and the reality of trying to find footing when life systems don't always provide clear support. His work is honest, grounded, and deeply personal, offering insight into what it means to keep moving forward, even when stability feels out of reach. Welcome, Robert.
Hi, Donna. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
First question I like to ask is, what would you like to share without shame?
My struggle's pretty much it's been a lifelong struggle. I didn't realize it at the time. My first memories, I suffered from a crippling shyness and anxiety. I was never comfortable in my own skin. My mother was an alcoholic. She would go on binges, and I would be kept home from school to get the household in order because her binges would sometimes last up to 2 weeks. I never thought I'd be like my mother. As I got into my early teens, the anxiety didn't go away. I was introduced to alcohol, and I found my life coach. And for a number of years, it worked for me. I was unflappable. I was comfortable in my own skin. But then the tables turned, and I realized how insidious alcohol is. And I kind of look at alcohol. I know some firemen, and there's been some movies, they look at fire as a living thing and a conscious thing with a will. And I see alcohol the same way. I'm not a terribly religious person, but I see alcohol as a true demon. In AA, they tell you how it's patient. It's got nothing to lose, and just wait for you to make a fatal mistake and find a reason to start drinking again. And maybe it might even provide reasons for drinking. So it was a lifetime of drinking and urges and alcohol detoxes, pancreatitis. I almost died. I was in hospital for 12 days, and my pancreas is a lot of my pancreas is dead. But and it was shameful. I dropped out of law school after 3 semesters of drink. I drank every day in law school. After 3 semesters, I realized I wasn't going to be an attorney. My father was a successful trial attorney, and when I quit law school, for a while he disowned me. I have 7 siblings, so I guess he had other kids to be proud of, and most of them did accomplish. I have a brother who graduated from law school and became a very successful attorney in California. Everybody else in my family has reached a level of success except for me. Finally, I moved to Tucson because, well, basically I was homeless in Chicago, and I had a brother in Tucson, and he paid for me to come down. And after being there for just a couple weeks, I started drinking again. Somebody found me in a wash. A man was just walking his dogs and called an ambulance, and I was put on a ventilator. I've been on a ventilator so many times, it's ridiculous. And
You mean like a car wash?
Oh no, yeah, it's an arroyo. In Arizona, they have washes. It's a path that when we get when it rains in Arizona, especially in the monsoon season, a wash is where the water will run like a rapid river. I'm
Oh,
sorry about that. Yeah, I should have realized it's probably just more of an Arizona thing, but it's an arroyo in Spanish, and it's a wash. So this was in March, and it wasn't a rainy time, so I thought that the wash would be a good hiding place, and I drank just to excess and passed out, and I was found. I wound up going to another rehab, and then a long term halfway house. And the day I got out of the halfway house and moved into my own apartment, I resumed my drinking after a year and a half of sobriety. Finally, in 1996, after another episode of mixing my alcohol with medication, I was I was in a stupor again, and one of my friends who had kept calling called the police, and they came. I had gone to the hospital again for another stomach episode, and the doctors, a lot of times when an alcoholic goes to a hospital with problems, they're looked at with a lot of scorn, and they're just like kind of a pain. So I wrote about it in the book, but I had to change the name of the hospital. The doctor gave me a shot of morphine, a prescription for Demerol, a prescription for Compazine, which is a very strong anti-nausea, and 30 Valiums, and sent me on my way. They were done. Went home. I got myself a bottle of vodka and a 12-pack of beer, took them all at the same time, and I was like, okay, this is gonna do it. And it didn't do it. And I
this
woke
is
up.
going to do it. Mean take your life.
Yeah, take my life. Yeah, this is the end. I'm sick of this. How many times am I gonna keep doing the same thing? And then, like in AA, it's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that is really spot on. It's always the same result. And I wound up had to get my stomach pumped again. I was on a ventilator for a few days in a coma, and then I was transferred to a psych ward. It's the first time I've ever been to a psych ward. They decided to keep me, and I wound up being there for a month. And I was there are a few psychiatrists. They all were on board with diagnosing me as seriously mentally ill. To me, it was a blessing. It's like, now I'm not just some low life drunk, even though I was a drunk. There's a reason why I drink like I do. I have a mental illness, and now we're going to address it, and I can change my life. It wasn't that easy because doctors had to try to figure out what kind of medications to put me on. I know you had a guest a few days ago, and she talked about her daughter and how a lot of alcohol or substance abuse rehabs want to put patients on medications, and they don't have. I don't see that as a good idea. But since I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, mood disorder, and severe unipolar depression, the doctors decided to I went through a litany of medications, and they finally found one that worked for 3 years. It was called Nardil, and I became I graduated from college finally. I became a substitute teacher. I loved my job. I was good at it. After 3 years, the Nardil just stopped working. So I went through the whole thing again, and it was a few years of let's try this and then see how you do on it, and then if it doesn't work, then we wash you out and get that out of your system, and we'll try another one. And in the meantime, I had met my wife. I was volunteering at help people with who were visually impaired, and she was a case manager, and I was just an assistant. And we fell in love, and I was good at that time because I was on the Nardil, and we got married. And bless her heart, that was a huge mistake on her part. But she stayed with me through every drug change, every washout, every return to drinking and mixing my meds. She's still with me today, and I'm trying to be the husband that she thought she was marrying in the first place. My last drink was on January 10th, 2013. And I don't know really exactly why I stopped. I again was, my wife found me in the parking lot of a liquor store drinking two pints of vodka. And so she called the paramedics. They brought me to the hospital. Again, pumped my stomach, and I went to another psych ward for a weekend. And I didn't even see a psychiatrist then. They just said that since my weekend was uneventful, I was good to go. And I was furious. And all I wanted to do was, as soon as I got the chance or the opportunity, I would drink like nobody's business. And
What can you address that, just so people understand? Because, we have parents who go through this with their kids, and they don't understand that craving or that mental obsession. What was it? Can you explain what it does to your body or to your mind or whatever takes over? What is that like when that's happening? Because I've heard people say, all I know is I was walking by a package store or liquor store, whatever people call it,
yes.
and, I blacked out for 2 weeks. I woke up and didn't know what happened to the last 2 weeks. They can't explain it. Do you have an explanation that maybe you could give the listeners?
And I don't know if anybody, even experts in the alcoholism field or anybody in AA really can give an explanation for why the cravings are just so intense. I think a lot of it was my makeup, and also for me, nothing worked like alcohol. Even now, nothing. I'm a little nervous, and even with over 13 years of sobriety, I'm nervous talking to you, and
Don't be.
I'll always yeah, thank you. And you're a great person to talk to. And the more I listen to your newer episodes compared to your first few, even when you talk to your son back in 2022, I would like to hear you interview him now, because I think that you've become an even better at interviewing people. You've become a better host, a better
Oh,
listener.
thanks.
You asked better questions. So I would love to hear him back on again. But I don't know what he would say about that, even though his drug of choice is heroin.
You like the alcohol too.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not good, but understandable. I tried heroin once. I snorted it, and I loved it. It was a downer. I like downer. I was never a fan of cocaine or speed or amphetamines or anything like. Everything had to be a depressant, and
And that's what alcohol is.
that's what alcohol is. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it it's a really substantial depressant.
So can
So,
I give you an explanation of what I've
oh
heard, and you tell me if it
yeah,
if it's on point?
absolutely.
So what I've heard is that when somebody is having a craving, it's as though somebody's taking their head, they have their hand on their head, and they're pushing underwater, right? And they're holding them. And at first, when we were kids, people would hold you underwater, and you'd whack their hand and try to get them off of you. But if they didn't, you become in this panic. And this panic takes over, and you're grabbing at their hand, and you're gasping for air, and you feel like you're gonna die. And that's what I was told a craving feels like.
Wow, that's an excellent description. I'd never heard that before, but yeah, it is like you're underwater, and the only way you're gonna get your breath is with a drink. And
Mm,
I had times when I would decide to walk, to a liquor store. I would walk home and back without, I would decide that wasn't a good idea. So I would walk home. Every time I had a craving, I drank. I never beat the cravings once.
mm.
And being how I like that, I think I'll use that in discussions, and I'll share that with my wife too, because she can't. She's not a drinker. My wife, since when I met her, we went out and she had half a beer and didn't even finish it. Like, how can you not? How can somebody not finish a beer? And like they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. There's a
Mm.
lot about AA. I mean, I went to AA meetings for a long time. It's not what eventually resulted in my sobriety, but I think that AA provided the building blocks. I think my whole lifetime of seeing, talk therapy, years of talk therapy, the accumulation of all the different help that's out there, I think it finally um, overwhelmed the alcohol demons inside me, and my life's pretty. I mean, it's pretty amazing, and my wife and I are still, I would say, happily married. Yeah, she, um, the only thing the only reason she told me that she would ever have divorced me is if I had been unfaithful, and I've never been unfaithful in my life. My father was unfaithful to my mother, and I think he used her alcoholism as an excuse. That made me. I mean, I just cringe at the thought of ever cheating on my wife, and because of that, that was enough for her to keep giving me chance after chance, just like you with your son and other guests that you've had on with their sons or daughters. You give them all these chances, you pay for their rehab or you pay their dealers. It just doesn't matter. All the
And
good.
that's part of our thing, because we're the rescuer
Yeah.
and we're
Mhm.
codependent and enabling. And I really don't like those words because I find them blaming and shaming, but we're the unhealthy helper. To me, that sounds better.
Yeah.
I can handle that better.
Uh-huh.
But in a sense, really, like alcohol is your best friend and your lover. In
Yes.
the big, it's not a person,
It's not a person. Yeah.
but it is that. So
Mm-hmm.
because it consumes you, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I also found that, like when my son was in recovery, and I was a little jealous of the meetings and him going to those type of things. So I'm curious, when you found your recovery, and I know there was mental health issues, and you got everything, so you're on, on the road moving forward in a
Yes.
healthier, happier way. She doesn't know that guy. How did she get to know you again? Because it's like a new meet and greet for the two of you, because now you're sober. I'm assuming you're a very different person.
Yes. Uh-huh. That's a great question. The me that she knew was just somebody who wanted to be somewhere else and who wanted to be, like you said, the bottle was my lover. And she knew that she couldn't compete with alcohol. When I wasn't drinking, I was very moody. And when certain psychotropic medications were being used and they weren't working or they were taken away, I would just be full of anxiety and just a really rotten person, a real edgy, ornery. Just leave me alone. I want, just. And you're right. It. She did finally meet a new person. I have a mission not to ever. I mean, not to ever be that person again. And she has gone through hell and stayed with me. And why? Why did she put up with me? I wouldn't have advised her. I wanted her to because I had nobody else. But there's more than that. She's also the greatest person I've ever met, she's just a blessing in my life. And now I realize, how valuable she is. But when I was in my drinking years, all I thought of her was she was just a roadblock to my getting, to alcohol. She really was.
That's what we are. We're
Yeah,
roadblocks.
roadblock. And I'm so grateful that I'm in control of my life now. Every year I buy myself an AA token. The first one, I was in an outpatient group back in 2010. There was a woman there, 8 years of sobriety, but she had a young daughter who was critically, she was she had a fatal illness, and that's why she started going to the meetings again, because all she wanted to do was drink. She didn't drink, but at the end of that outpatient treatment, she presented me with her 8-year coin and said, "You're gonna make it one of these years." And I had no, I mean, I had just maybe a month or 2 months of the amount of time that I've been in this outpatient program, and I kept that coin. And I said, if I ever make it to 8 years, I'm gonna start, buying coins. So I didn't buy any until my 8th year, and I said, now this is I earned it, and God bless her for giving it to me. And she gave me this reward that was a reachable reward if I would, stay true to myself and stay true to my wife. And so, and on my 9th year, I finally had an anniversary, and I bought a coin that I actually felt I deserved. And now I bought, the 9, 10, 11, 12, and my 13-year
Wow.
coins.
She
So
sounds like a little angel on earth.
the woman who gave me the coin,
Yeah.
she was beautiful, and I felt what a wonderful person she was. But even for her, knowing she was going to be losing her young daughter, like she was probably about a tween, probably about a 12-year-old little girl, and the prognosis was just completely negative. She was going to die, and she still had the time for me to offer me a reason to stay sober, and
Wow.
she was unselfish, and I think I'm a lot less selfish than I used to be. I'm still selfish, and I used to say that I was never abusive to my wife or to my stepdaughter when I was drinking, but that's not true. Just drinking and being that person who always had to, my wife always had to call an ambulance for and wonder if I was going to live or die. That was a huge type of abuse.
That's not a good time.
No, not a good, no. So
It's very difficult to watch.
it
Yeah.
really is. And I was the guilty party. And now I own the fact that I was abusive. I might not have ever hit her, or I never hit her, but I never threatened to. But what she had, the day she had to miss from work, spent being 3 o'clock in the morning in the emergency room, and I'm so bad off that they have to make injections into artery or into veins in my chest to get medications to my heart, and she had to live through all that. So I was really, I think I was a very abusive husband.
And what people don't often understand is that the family members are in fight or flight mode constantly. We're
Constantly.
we're always on guard, just waiting for the next chaos or the next crisis or that phone call. Is it, today the day I'm going to get that phone call? And it's a horrible, horrible way to live our lives. But we mimic each other's behaviors. I say this all the time, because you're in fight or flight mode as well when you're actively in your addiction.
Yes.
But I'm curious to kind of switch a little bit. In your book, jumping to the end, you talk about a broken system. Can we talk a little bit about what you mean by that? The mental health system, the recovery system, or all of the above?
The mental health system, I still see a psychiatrist every 3 months. And I think that I was fortunate. A lot of people are just in and out of psych wards. And a lot of people are in and out of long-term care and that specialize in alcohol or in dual diagnoses. The help is out there.
But there's gaps, right? There's
Yeah,
gaps.
yes.
When you get out of treatment, if you don't have support at home, you don't have a loving and kind wife, or you're going back to, a room that you're renting, or you don't have that support system, where do you find that love? Because addiction, and I don't know about mental health, but addiction's all about the lack of love.
Yeah,
And
and
everybody's looking for it in all the wrong places.
yes, in all the wrong places.
So with
And
mental health, I don't know enough about it, but I know when people are impaired, that it affects their mental health.
mhm.
But, I know the system for like rehabs and resources is broken, especially when somebody gets out of jail and they're trying to, transition back into society. There's broken systems in many different ways along the way that many people find.
Yeah, there and I was even in a group with my therapist, and I was she my therapist thought that it would be a good idea for me to belong to this group. Everybody else was court ordered, and most of them were fresh out of jail or prison. I thought that I was fortunate that I didn't have the threat of returning to prison or jail hanging over my head, but I wasn't in any better shape than they were, because I still had my urges and my cravings. Urges, sometimes you can skate around, but generally they'll come back and get you, and they'll get stronger, and there'll be cravings. So I really thought that I felt at home with that group of people, because they were prisoners, and probably a lot of the reasons that they had gone through prison was a lot of them were addicts of, either methamphetamines or heroin, and that's why they wound up in prison, because they had to break the law in order to get their meth or get their heroin. And then alcoholics, so many DUIs that the judge finally says, that's it, you're going to prison, and nothing matters but chasing the high. So it's like a revolving door. So I see what you're saying about it being broken, because the same people are just going in and coming back out, and they haven't changed. Their thought process hasn't changed one bit, and they're still all about the best thing in life is still being high.
Yeah, it's really a hard thing. So you started writing a book. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, like over the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's really about your experience of what you went through with your alcoholism and being in and out of mental health facilities.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Even before I knew that I was mentally, although one time when my mother was drunk, I was 10 years old, and we were on the way to the liquor store. I had to help her carry her liquor back to the house because she didn't have a driver's license. And I used to beg her to stop, and she just told me one time, she was pretty furious, and she said, you really have a problem. You really need to see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with your head. And
when you were a child.
When I was a child, yeah. I thought it was the alcohol talking, but I don't know. Maybe she knew something I didn't know, because she was even back, that early in my life. I did psychiatrist. Could have been pretty helpful. Although back then, psychiatry and psych wards were all about electroshock therapy and.
Well, I was going to say it's very different. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're talking 50s, 60s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm 71, and I had an aunt, a beautiful woman, and when she was 26, early to mid 20s is when you have mental illness really comes to the forefront, just destroys your life. Her life was just a series of going to psych wards, getting the electroshock therapy, being released, not leaving the house. She hates the term agoraphobia, but that's basically, she was, and I was agoraphobic. I couldn't go out and get the mail or take out the garbage. So when I started going to rehab, there'd be funny episodes or scary episodes, and I would in alcohol rehabs, it was easier to get a hold of a pen or a pencil and make notes. So I made notes. I don't know why I was doing it, but I just thought that there were a lot of interesting episodes along the way, and I might as well use my time doing something like that. When I was in 1981, I sat down and tried to write a memoir, and that was a joke, because I had nothing to write about, and that might have been one of the reasons. Every time I went to a rehab or a detox center, if something struck me, I would write about it. And then when I transitioned to psych wards, it's really dark, but there is a lot of funny stuff. Like
I bet.
There's a guy who tried to do his laundry. We had to be on a waiting list, and the staff would do our laundry. But he said the list was too long. So 2:00 in the morning, he was trying to wash his clothes in his toilet.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And he flooded the corridor, and he thought that they would be mean to him because he hadn't done anything wrong. And there were just a lot of people I've met, a lot of sad stories, but just a lot of funny episodes. And in psych wards, you don't get to have a pen or a pencil. You can't have shoelaces. You can't have a belt. Nothing that you could harm yourself with. So I would a lot of times I would go to art therapy and get a crayon or a colored pencil, and I would write on anything I could write on. After a while, I had accumulated so many little stories that I decided that I was going to try to put it together, and maybe then. At first, it was kind of journaling, but it transitioned to I do want to write a memoir, and I think that I have a story that people will, I don't know if they enjoy it, they would find interesting, and also that a lot of people would find helpful. That if I went through all this and came out and I'm maintaining my sobriety, for over 13 years, and my marriage has been fairly well repaired, that I have something to offer people. I have a niece who she teaches high school English to unwed mothers, unwed fathers, women, teenage girls who are going to be unwed mothers, and teenage boys who are going to be unwed fathers. And she shared a lot of my stories with them. And she shared with me, because she would make writing assignments, they would read it, and what do you think of this? And the answer, the way they said, I don't like to read, but this story was one that I didn't want it to end, and I was really flattered. And my niece hadn't asked me for permission, which makes me feel really good, because she felt comfortable enough with me that she felt fine sharing this stuff with them, and then later telling me, "Oh, I shared this. I mean, you got to see the stuff that the kids wrote about what you did." And their lives are pretty much being an unwed mother at 16 or 17 or 18. For most of them, that's the end of the road. Your life's not going to get any better. And if you manage to hang on to your child, which is highly unlikely, your life's still going to suck, and you won't have graduated from high school, and your job prospects and life prospects will be really bleak. And so they saw something about, I don't know, there was a bleakness about what I wrote, but she would tell them, "That's my uncle who wrote this book." And I said, Your uncle wrote that?" And he, that's really cool that, he did all this stuff, and he still made it, and now he doesn't drink, and she still does share with her group, with her kids in new classes, and get this same kind of feedback. And that really warms my heart.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And have you published? The book is published,
the book
correct?
was published. I got picked up. I queried 211 literary agents, and I was lucky if I even got a rejection letter. I probably didn't even get 5% of my queries. Probably didn't even get a rejection letter. If you don't hear from somebody in a year or two, you're not going to. And then I submitted to Apprentice House Press out of Loyola University in Maryland, and they sent me an email and said, "We were just wondering, we really like your story. We wonder if it's still available." I almost died laughing and crying. "Oh, hell yeah, it's available. Nobody wants this." It's yours. And so we signed a contract. We both had 6 months. They had 6 months to, if they didn't like the direction that I was taking after I had agreed to a publishing contract, they could release me from the contract, but they didn't. And I got friends and experts that are called beta readers, people who read your work, proofread it, or tell you what, if they think you're going in the right direction, or what would make the stories better. And I worked really hard. And on May 5th, my book is going to be released, and it'll be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org. And then I've been really fortunate that a lot of local bookstores in Tucson that I've contacted, and they've actually bought the book. They've pre-ordered the book, because they can't see it either yet. But they pre-ordered the book based on what my website and what I read. So there are going to be outlets for it, and I would love for it to be really successful, but I kind of doubt that it's going to be a highly successful or New York Times bestseller. I'm just happy that someone finally decided that this was a work of nonfiction that was worth sharing with other people, and they made it available. I never wanted to self-publish. Not that there's anything really wrong with self-publishing, but I wanted somebody to say to me, "We like this. We think this is good, and we want to publish it." Instead of you have to pay a publisher, you have to pay for every book. It's called Vanity Presses, and it's print on demand. And I just didn't want to go that way. And so it finally got picked up. Yeah. So now it's 2 weeks away.
If somebody would like to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
My Facebook page is open. Sometimes I get contacted by a lot of people. There's scammers everywhere, but I said, it's open. Anybody who wants to go on my page, my Facebook page, and read some stuff about my book or my life.
And that's Robert Rickelman.
Yeah, that's Robert Rickelman. That's all you got to do. Go on Facebook and just search Robert Rickelman, and I'm the only Robert Rickelman. They can see that. And then I have a website. It's not top of the line. I mean, I've seen some really fantastic websites, but I have a website and I have a few stories in there. And my website is robertrickelman.com. They can look at it that way. They can also, if they just Google me and say Robert Rickelman writer or Robert Rickelman short story writer, there's some of the magazines that publish my short stories. They still have those available. So there are. My name is. I'm glad I don't have a really common name. There's one more. Robert Rickelman. He's a professor, and he shows up a lot. But good for him, So I'm out there, and people, if they're interested, they can find out. And if they just want to, if they go to my website, the two stories I wrote, one is about a group therapy session. It's a very eccentric patient it was just hilarious. I wasn't laughing at him because I think he was a brilliant man, and he was probably at one time, maybe I like to think of him as a voice announcer or something. He's had a beautiful voice. And then I wrote one about being in a detox center that it was also a 4-hour police drunk take. We had to live in there with these guys, and it was Memorial Day weekend, and it was just insane. And the only thing that separated the people who were there to actually detox and stay for a few days and the people who were there by the police was a strip of red tape on the floor that they weren't supposed to cross. But it was it was one of the scariest experiences of my life.
Wow.
And I wrote about that. And
sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's short too. So I try to, both of the stories are short because, I don't want anybody to have to, really commit.
And so what would, as we wrap up, what are your words of wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with?
It's never too late. If you want to try, I would recommend anybody at least give Alcoholics Anonymous a try, because there's a lot of wisdom in there. And like I said, I've been to at least 1,000 AA meetings, and I've done the program, and it works for a lot of people, and God bless. Mm-hmm. It really, really works. And there's so many people that I admired. And if that doesn't work, there's Smart Recovery. I tried that and it just wasn't a fit. Also, getting a therapist, if you can't afford one, they have them on either sliding scales, or you can look for mental health organizations in your area. Tucson has 3 that are free, and you can just feel them out. And if they feel that you need help, they'll offer it. I've been going to the same behavioral health agency since 1996. Wow. And I still carry the serious mentally ill designation. So I was don't quit. And if it doesn't happen, just keep giving it another try. And you're human, and you're gonna fail. But look at this idiot Robert Rickelman. All the stupid crap he did to himself, and all the hurtful things he did to people. And somewhere along the line, because he just got tired of knocking his head against the wall, or maybe he knocked some sense into himself one time. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. I never thought I would ever quit drinking. That was beyond the realm of possibility. But it happened. So I know there's a lot of hopeless people out there. I was as hopeless, I think, as you can get. And I don't even talk about hitting bottoms. I hit so many bottoms that I just bounced along, the bottom all the time. I never got up anywhere to fall to a deeper bottom. It can happen, and that's. I hope it doesn't sound lame, but anything's possible. And I pray still, and I'm not like I said, I'm not a very religious person. But I mostly pray for God to let me be a good person and to let me be a good husband and let me treat my wife the way she's always wanted to be treated and the way she's always deserved to be treated and the way she's always needed to be treated. So those are the kind of, and also thank yous for, for letting me finally, be sober. And sobriety, my mental health is as good as it's going to get. Like I said, I'm a nervous person. I'm an anxious person. Well, that's just too bad. That's the way, sometimes you're going to be nervous and sometimes you're not. I'm not as nervous as I was when I first got on here. And you've been really great too. So my message is give yourself another chance and just, keep giving yourself another chance. If you have it in you, try one more time. And it's kind of, I don't get that emotional, but it happened to me, I started law school in 1977. I've been a full-fledged drunk for 49 years, and I was drunk before that. I just didn't realize it. I wasn't screwing up yet, but I was still drinking in a very unhealthy manner. So, yeah. So basically, 13 was my first drink. I think I was in trouble with alcohol from the time I was 13. So I'm 71 now. So that's 58 years of relying on alcohol, thinking it was my only ally, the only thing that could come through for me. And I always thought it could come, but it always turned on me. And it's always going to turn on you. Drinking is never going to make anything better. And somehow that finally sunk in. I don't know. Does that make sense? I hope some people might find some encouragement from that. But it's wonderful being sober. And I used to get a lot of dark thoughts and, what if, but I'm not prepared to drink anymore. And I'm not prepared to ruin my life and my wife, and to hurt my wife again. I'm finally on good terms with my stepdaughter. She still remembers, and she doesn't want to read the book, and I don't blame her. She lived it. Mm-hmm. And my wife is happy that I finally finished it and found a publisher. She doesn't want to read the book either, and that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. She lives. Yeah. She knows every bad thing that happened. She already knows it, so she doesn't have to read about it. And
yeah, sometimes you just don't have to relive everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they've been through it. They know what it's like, and you move on. So
yeah, you move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So God bless my wife for staying with me, and I'm so happy that I have a healthy relationship with my daughter. And I do not blame them, and I'm not hurt at all that they don't want to read the book. But I hope other people who don't know me wouldn't mind reading it and maybe getting something from it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Donna. You're a great person to talk to, and you make it really easy. Sometimes I talk too much. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope some people maybe can find a message of hope. And
you never know who we're going to touch.
You never know. And you're out there putting out, your episodes often. And I've read many and have come away feeling good every time I read one.
Awesome.
Not read one, every time I listen or watch one. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining Donna for today's conversation. Remember, trauma may wear many faces, but healing is about uncovering the truth beneath the pain and learning to live without shame. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps this message reach more hearts that need it. If you have a story of navigating trauma, shame, or addiction and how you found your freedom, Donna would love to hear from you. This podcast is built on real stories, and yours could inspire someone else's healing. Visit sharingwithoutshame.com to connect with Donna, apply to be a guest, or learn how to bring her books, coaching, and speaking engagements to your community or organization. Until next time, remember, healing begins the moment you choose to stop hiding and start sharing without shame.